Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, February 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Akron game is in 208 days. The game against Michigan in 299 days. Yes, we are under 300 days until the game. I don't want to say it's almost here, but we're making progress. We're getting a little closer every day. So today we're going to be hearing from one of the newest Ohio State Buckeyes, someone who has a little bit of a history with the University of Michigan as well, Seth McLaughlin. He is the center who transferred from Alabama to Ohio State after the Crimson Tide lost to the Wolverines in the Rose Bowl. So, Seth McLaughlin, what was it that made Ohio State an appealing destination in the transfer portal?
I thought Ohio State's one of the greatest programs in college football, and coming from a place like Alabama, I thought I wanted to go to another similar place that is always competing to win championships and has great coaching and great development.
The two other players Ohio State has landed from Alabama this transfer portal cycle, quarterback Julian Sayin, safety Caleb Downs, they had only really one choice, which was go somewhere else to play your college football for the next couple of years before you were eligible for the NFL draft. That was not the case for McLaughlin, who could have chosen to go to the NFL instead. So what made him decide to transfer somewhere else rather than declaring for the NFL draft?
I think, personally, I've always thrived off of change. I played for 3 different offensive coordinators. I played for 3 offensive line coaches, 2 strength staffs. And I thought at this point in my career, I think Alabama had done a great job of developing from the 265-pound kid into the 300-pound center that I was. But I thought for my 5th year, I could do something different and go to a program, learn from new people, being a new strength staff, and really progress my development that further.
The Ohio State program, living in Ohio, that's all going to be new for Seth McLaughlin, but there is going to be at least a few familiar faces. We mentioned Downs, we mentioned Sayin. We also, Bill O'Brien, the new offensive coordinator for the Ohio State team. Well, he used to be the offensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide team. So what are Seth McLaughlin's experiences with Bill O'Brien, his thoughts on Bill O'Brien? You're going to hear 2 answers here, butted together back to back.
Yeah, it was cool. I was with Coach O'Brien for 2 years at Alabama, and we had a great time together. We're very familiar with each other, and I loved having him as a coach, so I'm excited for that opportunity again. He's a really good leader of men. He's very knowledgeable in the game. He's coached some of the best players to ever play the game, and when you walk into a place like this, he's going to be having great players to coach, and I think we can have a lot of success with him.
The offensive coordinator may be familiar for Seth McLaughlin. The offensive line coach will not be. That offensive line coach, of course, is Justin Fry. He will be a new face for McLaughlin. So what were his initial impressions of Justin Fry during the transfer portal process?
I've really liked him. He's a very impressive coach. So kind of on my recruiting visits, he sat me down and was very real about how I was as a player. He's like, okay, he showed me a cut up. Here's the good, what I like. Here's what we need to fix. And here's our plan to get better, and kind of showed me the drills that we were going to do to improve the weaknesses of my game and kind of how I could fit in the system going forward. So that was really impressive.
McLaughlin was sort of at the center of one of the big storylines of the Rose Bowl, had a couple bad snaps against Michigan in that Rose Bowl game, including that last play that decided the game in overtime. So what has he identified as the causes, and how do you fix those kind of issues on snapping issues? Once again, this is going to be 2 answers back to back.
There's a lot that goes into it. Kind of just, once you have a bad one, you kind of start thinking about, okay, I got to get this right. And I don't think I was really struggling from a mental standpoint. It was just a matter of it would just happen. I can't really explain what was going on and kind of what went into it, but that's really in the past, and I'm looking on moving forward from that. Just getting back into a rhythm. I've been doing it since I was 7 years old. I've been snapping a football since I was 7, and I've never had issues with it. And previously in my career in football and college, I didn't really have an issue. So just getting back, snapping at the quarterback's hands, and just getting back into it. It's like shooting a free throw.
McLaughlin comes into Ohio State as a veteran of college football, obviously new at Ohio State, but a veteran of the college football process on the whole. So is he looking at taking on a leadership role in the room as a veteran?
I think the first thing about coming into a place like this is there's so many great players. Everybody was highly recruited. Everybody is good at football. So it's kind of about earning the respect of people. I am coming in as a 5th year, but, in certain aspects, like learning the program, learning how we work here, I kind of feel like a freshman. So I kind of have to get on task and figure out how things work here And then once I earn the respect of my teammates, then I can continue on in a leadership role.
Going through the transfer portal process, it's going to be similar to recruiting, you would think, maybe a little more compressed than the recruiting process. But in Seth McLaughlin's mind, which one was better, recruiting out of high school or the transfer portal?
Neither. I hated the recruiting process, kind of in both sense. The transfer portal period is so short. I was home from the Rose Bowl on Wednesday, I think, and I was up here Thursday. And then I came up here like on Saturday, so as an enrollee. So that was really quick. But yeah, I've never really been a fan of all the hype and the hoorah and of the recruiting process.
When you were a college football player, the team you play for, that's a big part of your identity. You're wearing their gear every day. You're identified as Seth McLaughlin, Alabama center. And that's a huge part of who you are and how people view you. So how do you adjust from being an Alabama player for years to suddenly now you're Ohio State center, Seth McLaughlin? You're going to hear two answers once again here, butted back to back.
I think I had the advantage of being there for 4 years. I love Alabama. I have 2 degrees from Alabama. That's always going to be my alma mater, and I'm so appreciative for everything that I've done there and everything that's been given to me there. But just as we're playing the sport to be professionals, and I just thought for my benefit that change would be good. But I am very thankful for everything I received from Alabama, their fans. I love them. But it's just going to be a fun new adventure. I think one of the craziest things is, playing in all those SEC stadiums and growing up in the SEC. I was never really a huge Big Ten football watcher, so kind of getting to experience this type of culture and see the love for the game up here, it's been fun.
We heard earlier that Seth McLaughlin was not really a big fan of the recruiting process or the transfer portal process, but how did these sales pitches from the different schools that might have been approaching you to try and get you to come join their team, how did those sales pitches differ from when you were in high school to when you were in the portal?
I think you have the experience of what you've done, and kind of what works and what coaching styles you're more adept to. So when you talk to the coaches, it's really about how can you make me better, not necessarily how can you develop me into the player that I need to be from where I was. I was like a 6'3", 260 pounds coming out of high school. So that was really more about what can the weight staff do, what can the nutrition staff do to put the weight on me. But now it's kind of just about developing as a football player.
There's always the question about whether recruiting momentum or momentum for a team overall is a real thing in college football. Does it really impact other guys' decisions? Well, how about let's frame this a little differently. What has stood out to Seth McLaughlin about all of the guys that could have gone to the NFL draft from Ohio State choosing to come back to handle some unfinished business from last season?
I think it's impressive. I think it's a testament to the culture here. In my 2 short weeks, I can tell how much guys love this program and care about this program and care about their legacy. And you had so many guys that could have been drafted this year that came back. And I don't want to speak for them, but it sounds like it's because they think they have unfinished business and they want to win all the games and they want to leave a legacy here.
McLaughlin left Alabama before Caleb Downs did and Julian Sayin did. He also committed to Ohio State before Caleb Downs and Julian Sayin did. He didn't know Julian Sayin all that well because Julian Sayin really had not really spent any time on the Alabama team. But what about Caleb Downs? What was Seth McLaughlin's reaction to Caleb Downs committing to Ohio State?
I was excited. I've been watching Caleb for a year now at Alabama, and he was very, very impressive. He walked in and he acted like a third-year starter. He was a veteran. And that's very rare from a freshman. So he's one of the most impressive freshmen I've ever seen come through Alabama.
And finally, when Seth McLaughlin went into the portal, did he have anyone in mind? Was Ohio State sort of at the top of his list when he first decided to put his name in the portal as a possible destination?
Yeah, it was. And that was kind of what attributed to my first, it being my first visit. They were very proactive about, as soon as I entered the portal, they were one of the first people to call me. And they were very proactive to getting me here first, and then just knew the process of how important that was due to our short time constraint.
Well, that will do it for today. We should have some more news, more interviews, more all sorts of stuff coming up this week at BuckeyeHuddle.com. This has turned into an eventful time of year somehow. National Signing Day coming up. Buckeye is looking to add at least one more player to the 2024 recruiting class. Could have some more news in the transfer portal, could have more news in future recruiting classes. There's a lot of stuff kind of out there right now, all sort of swirling around and is potentially happening soon. So a great time to be a member of BuckeyeHuddle.com so you get the inside scoop on all of it. You can join Kevin, Tony, and I covering the team, Mark covering recruiting, our whole team of X's and O's gurus, plus a really fun active board, a huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.